Welcome to the Weather Guru's tropical update for Hurricane Fiona, as well as the other tropical entities in the Atlantic and Caribbean basins that we will be discussing. This is for your September 22nd, 2022 update. Thank you for joining me. Please be sure to subscribe and to continue to support the Weather Guru's channel as we bring you the latest here from the official National Hurricane Center as well as other entities as well. First off, I want to start off with Fiona. It is approaching Bermuda. It's about 345 miles to the southwest of Bermuda, moving west-northwest at moving northeast at 14 knots or 16 miles an hour. Pressure still holding steady at 936 millibars, and the winds, maximum sustained winds at 130 miles an hour. So far, it is holding its strength. The outer bands are reaching Bermuda. Some of the outer cirrus clouds are reaching Bermuda at this time. Now, it could weaken a little bit down to maybe 120 or 125 or 115, somewhere around there, 115 to 120. And this is because there's the eye wall is looking ragged on the southwest side. It's starting to become a little bit filled with clouds and a little more ragged. To the intensity is coming, could suggest that the intensity is coming down just a bit in that core area. However, the storm looks very impressive still on satellite. Not as impressive. The outflow is not as strong. It's starting to look ragged. And like I said, that center dense overcast, the CDO over the eye wall is starting to, the cloud tops are starting to warm just a little bit, okay? So that may suggest some weakening and fluctuation. It could be going through an eye wall replacement cycle, ERC, or it could just be weakening somewhat as it moves northward and reconstitutes itself. As it's moving, the speed is picking up too as well. So the main messages for Bermuda is that they will have hurricane warning is in effect for them. They will have hurricane conditions starting after midnight, around maybe 2 a.m., 3 a.m. They'll start getting into those 50, 60, 70, 80 knot winds, gusts to 90 knots. And that's okay. Category 1, Category 2, that's not bad. They can handle that. They can handle that mostly in the western parishes. Bermuda's only 21 square miles long, so it's very hard to get a direct hit on Bermuda. The last storm to do that was Hurricane Fabian back in 2003, which was a Category 3, which basically the eastern eye wall went right over the island with its 120 mile an hour winds, and it did cause some damage because there's tornadoes embedded in there. So that was one of the worst ones. But with Fiona, we're not expecting that. Maybe a few power outages in the western parishes, maybe. There may not even be that. A couple of trees down. Because the hurricane force winds are only going to last from, like I said, from midnight until until 4 a.m., 5 a.m., just about sunrise on Friday till about noon, and after that, it's gone. The system is going to be accelerating so fast as it moves towards Canadian Maritimes and Nova Scotia, and that's going to be the biggest problem here. So we're going to get about 2 to 4 inches of rain for Bermuda here. Nova Scotia and Canada, the Canadian Maritimes, they're going to get a lot more rain, 2 to 5 inches in Quebec, New Brunswick, etc. Storm surge is going to be a problem for Canadian Maritimes too, and this could still be packing winds of 90 miles an hour as it makes its way towards the Canadian Maritimes here. If you look at the graphics here, and I'll show you the graphics here. Here we go. You can see it moving once it gets into Bermuda. It passes by Bermuda. The closest point of a point to Bermuda approach to Bermuda is going to be 102 nautical miles to the west-northwest as positioned by the National Hurricane Center. And this is important because hurricane force winds only extend out, sustained hurricane force winds only extend out 70 miles from the center. So Bermuda would just be getting the hurricane force gust anywhere from 90 to 103 miles an hour as forecast here by the local Bermuda Weather Service. So sustained winds will be anywhere from 50 to 60 to 70 miles an hour around there, but it won't be, hurricane just below hurricane force, and then the gust, of course, will be over by 90 to 100 miles an hour. That'd be hurricane force, but that will all end come 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Friday morning. That'll be the strongest, and after that, the system will accelerate quickly off into the Canadian Maritimes. So here's the forecast of the Bermuda Weather Center. I want to show you the Bermuda Weather Service forecast here, just to give you an idea. Tonight, nothing going on. A few, increasing, of course, 30 to 45 knots, 55 knots near midnight. Then after midnight, it starts to increase 55 to 70 knots. Okay, there we go, with gusts to 90 knots and heavier showers. As it's kind of squally weather. So that will be your hurricane gusts right there. And the seas will be dangerous, building 35 foot, 40 foot, 45 foot outside the reefs. Okay, inside the reef, you get 8 to 10, 4 to 7 feet. And then Friday morning, the winds are coming out of the south as Fiona approaches. That'll be the worst of the weather here. Winds southerly sustained 55 to 70 knots, gusts to 90 knots. And then it gradually decreasing, obviously during the day, by the 30 to 45 knots, 60 knots by noon, and then it really decreases as Fiona is already well past late in the afternoon, say 4 p.m. Bermuda time. They're an hour ahead of Eastern Coast time, New York time. So to be about 4 or 5 p.m. winds will be back down 20 to 30 knots westerly and during late afternoon and easing back, and the seas will still be dangerous. Because Fiona's still out there. They'll still be inside the reef 4 to 8 feet. They're outside the reef 30 to 45 feet, and that won't diminish until Saturday afternoon. So not a good time to be boating or swimming out there, anything like that. Rip currents will be dangerous, but this will be a quick hitter for Bermuda, as you can see here. But hurricane warning is in effect because Fiona is going to pass around 100 nautical miles to the west-northwest, as I've stated before, and that will mean that we will have some brief hurricane force winds sustained and a lot of hurricane force gusts and sustained tropical storm force winds. So it shouldn't be a big deal. A beautiful weekend is behind that. Bermuda looks to be in 79 degrees Fahrenheit on Saturday, 80 and mostly sunny on Sunday, and 82 back to the beautiful tropical weather that we're used to there. So there's Fiona. Now we're going to look at some other storms here as well. Let's look at the rest of the basin here. Gaston is going to affect some of the Azores. It's still there. Tropical storm Gaston. 65-mile-an-hour winds, minimum sensor pressure 999 millibars, moving to the east-northeast at 21 miles per hour or 18 knots. Gaston will continue to affect the Azores and eventually will end up, of course, in the British Isles as a rainstorm, a tropical rainstorm here. And so tropical storm conditions are expected to begin tonight on the Azores Islands. Western Azores Islands of Flores and Corvo, if you have any family in Picos, São Jorge, Terceira, and Central Azores, tropical storm warning conditions will be expected there as tropical storm force winds extend out 115 miles from the center. Maximum sustained winds at 65 miles an hour. So that's tropical storm Gaston. We also have a disturbance in the Caribbean that everybody's talking about in the southeastern Caribbean Sea. Right now, it doesn't look very impressive on the satellite or radar. It's just a bunch of disorganized showers north of Venezuela and the ABC Islands. However, in the next 2 days, a tropical depression will form, and this will most likely will be Hermine that's coming up, but it won't get that name until probably late Saturday night, Sunday morning, because right now there's a lot of heavily trade winds or westerlies are just blowing it apart, and the showers hadn't got a chance to concentrate around the center. Hurricane hunters were out there today looking around. They didn't find the closed low at the surface, so you know what that means. It's not coming, but it is coming. It has a 90% chance of development during 5 days. It's all but certainty as it moves north-northwest back into the middle of the Caribbean Sea, where sea surface temperatures are 86 degrees in Fahrenheit and above, south of Jamaica, and there's nothing, no wind chill will relax. There's nothing to stop it from growing. And then later on in the week, it'll get into the Gulf of Mexico by next Friday, and then it's just a matter of the steering currents and where it's going to go. Anywhere from the Gulf Coast, the Big Bend, to Florida, back towards the Houston, Beaumont area of Texas, need to be watching this storm as it makes its way up by Wednesday of next week or Thursday of next week. There's a couple of ways behind it, but they have a medium, a 60% chance, and a 30% chance. Nothing to really worry about yet. It's too far out. But once they get going, we'll give you more details on that. So we do have Hermine coming, but it's just going to be a little bit wild. It's kind of like disorganized right now. So it's going to become more conducive for development, but Hermine won't be here until, like I said, Sunday morning or something like that. We'll officially name this thing Hermine right now, because right now it's just not organized at all. So this is what we have going on in the tropics, ladies and gentlemen. In the eastern Pacific, there is Newton, tropical storm Newton. Same thing, 65-mile-an-hour winds, but it's moving west-northwest at 8 miles an hour. It's just going to provide more rain for Baja California and the southwest monsoon season. So if you're in Phoenix, Tucson, Albuquerque, up through the Raton Pass of Colorado and the San Luis Crystal Mountains, Newton will provide those showers before fizzling out in the Central Pacific, as most of these storms do this time of year. And then the other one is there's nothing in the Central Pacific, so Hawaii, you're looking absolutely fabulous, clear. Our prayers and thoughts are with those who just had the typhoon and come through Japan and the rainstorm they had there. Over 250 millimeters of rain in southern Japan and central Japan at that typhoon that came through 2 days ago. So our prayers are with you guys and others as well as we continue in this season. Remember, the hurricane season in the Atlantic Basin continues to go on through November the 1st, 2022. So we still have about 40% of the activity remaining for this hurricane season, and we're getting to the H name now, Hermine, and we still have the next peak of the hurricane season is from now until October 10th. After that, things will be calming down on the lower scale. So just wanted to mention that to you as well. So thank you for joining me on this tropical update. This is Tony from the Weather Guru signing off. Please be sure to subscribe, and I look forward to talking with you soon again. Bye-bye.